joke, I've been a money maker. I've been a record breaker, taking credit as an educator. I've been known to spit the flows and make it shaky, shaky thing. Popping, locking, stopping, let it hang. Watch us as we drop this hip hop, it's like it stings. We make the whole room drop and everybody sing. We want the funk. We gotta have that funk. We kick it old school. We think we're so cool. We take it back to the past. We gonna act a fool. Up jumps the middle finger. Make my
Hello, and welcome to Sports Buzz, the Fanatical View. I am your host, Scott D. Lewis, here live in studio, Comcast Cable Channel 23, downtown Danbury, Connecticut, on this March 12th. We are inching closer to the first day of spring. It certainly didn't feel like that today. The bitter Arctic blast came shooting back down at us. Cold out there, not pleasant. So we are here, of course, our usual time slot, live till 6:30. We opened those phone lines early. 203-792-4101 is the number. My usual right-hand man, Mr. Bob Brown Jr., cannot be with us tonight. And we have someone sitting in, so Bob better, worried. He might be losing his job after we see how these things go for the first 30 minutes. But Mike McFadden is working the camera and on the off-camera microphone. Mike, how you doing over there?
I'm doing okay.
Nice of you to be down here. Mike's been working behind the scenes, learning the system here, and we've been talking to him lately about maybe getting him on air. Eventually, we think that's what he wants to do, get his own show going. So maybe we'll see him sitting next to me for one of these shows upcoming. But for now, we got him on the off-camera mic, and we're going to get his views as I talk about my views on all these things in the sports world. We will plug Bob's show, however, Spotlight on Tuesday nights at 9, Wednesdays at 12 afternoon. And of course, Mike Toohey in the control room. His show, Expose Cinema, Friday nights at 9, Wednesdays, right after Bob's show, Spotlight On, is on at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, re-airing. All right, so we're going to get heavy into the NBA to start things off, and we will make mention first that Mike is a New York Knickerbockers fan, so we know that I am a Boston Celtic fan. After last night, I was a little bit disappointed with the Celtics' effort against the Knicks, as the Knicks are suddenly riding a little bit of a hot streak, 5 straight wins, and they looked like they were in their typical Knick mode last night. When this team gets hot, gets streaky, they can shoot with anybody, and they certainly were doing that last night early and often as they raced out, and got themselves a nice 116-92 beatdown in Boston. The Celtics, with this miserable season they're having, there's moments as a Celtic fan where we're looking for some bright spots. Last night was not it. Rajon Rondo did not play.
Scott, we have a caller.
We have a caller early and often. I wonder if it's our friend Bob, who's worried about his job. Let's find out. Hello, caller. You were on the air?
Hey, you're replacing me?
We don't waste any time down here, Bob. Mike was here, you weren't. We're just getting this thing done with. We got to see what the new guys got going on.
So, yeah, I just wanted to call and tell you guys that I wish I could have been there tonight.
Now, we know you have things going on, and we know your lovely lady friend Jolene is having a tough time right now with her family, and we wish you guys all the best. We know you're there supporting her and what is going on, as you are the stand-up guy that you are, so you know that we're thinking about you. But we're not going to replace you, Bob. But we did take the opportunity to give Mike a little chance to talk on the microphone there. But how's everybody doing with you?
Yeah.
You guys doing okay over there?
Yeah, we're holding up, trying to keep everything going.
Okay. Well, we're happy that you were able to take a moment to call in. And of course, give Jolene our best as you guys deal with the tough time. It's been a tough year for you and your family, and now she has a tough time with her mother passing away. So we wish the best to her and to you guys.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk any sports while you're here, Bob, or what's going on? You want to take a few minutes to talk or no?
Sure.
Well, we're getting into the NBA. We're going to get Mike's opinion. We'll get your opinion. What do you think about all this Action Jackson, Phil the Thrill, the Zen Master, and the Knicks getting down on their knees trying to bring him into the front office. I mean, what do you guys think as Knicks fans about what's going on behind the scenes with them bringing in Phil Jackson to take over president duties of the Knicks?
I think it's great because of the fact that the Knicks need another voice.
Well, my view is I'm glad to see he's back.
Well, they haven't actually made this official. Is it going to get done, or what is the holdup? This thing's been dragging on all week. Anybody know? Mike, what do you think about why this is taking so long to get done? Do you think it's just a paperwork thing and it actually is going to happen, or are the Knicks fans going to be left in the lurch?
I think there's still some details to be worked out. I mean, they were talking earlier about Phil Jackson maybe wanting to bring in his own people, and Dolan wanting to keep Steve Mills, who, as you know, is basically kind of like Dolan's right-hand man. So
Right.
if I'm Phil Jackson, I want to bring in my own people. I want to kind of clear house, or get another mindset up there, so to speak, to try to get this thing turned
The
around.
Knicks have tried in the past to get him as a coach. It seems like physically he's unable to be a head coach at this point. So he's never actually been a team builder. As we know, Phil actually likes to go to teams that are ready made to win. The Knicks right now sitting at 26-40, feeling good about themselves after 5 wins and possibly being able to catch the free-falling Atlanta Hawks and get into the playoffs, amazingly enough. Are not necessarily a team that's ready to win now, though. They have no draft picks at all. Next year, they have one the following year. They don't have a draft pick the year after that with these terrible deals they've done in recent years. So I don't know that I see Phil being able to come in as a team builder, a president of operations guy. It's going to be like this big, I mean, they're offering him $15 million and possibly even a share of ownership to be a glorified consultant. I mean, what do you guys think about that? Bob, do you have an opinion on that?
Well, my thing is I'm thinking probably Phil's probably going to come in. He's probably eventually going to take over as coach.
So you think, even though he states physically he can't take the grinding day in, day out of coaching, the travel that comes along with it. Remember the Lakers, before they signed D'Antoni last year, were talking to Phil again, and he said he could only coach home games. He couldn't coach road games. You think that he could actually put that all aside and say, you know what, I can do this again. I'm Phil Jackson. I can coach. You think that he could actually coach, Bob?
Yeah, I think he'll come back.
So, I mean, Mike, what do you think as far as that goes? You think he would, initially these talks are front office, but you think he would say, I can handle that workload, and he would come down and coach?
You know what I think it depends on, Scott? I think it depends on who he would find to coach the team. If he doesn't find something that he thinks is suitable, who he thinks can get the job done, then I think in 2015, I think next year will be just basically just trying to get things in order, getting rid of some contracts will come off. And then in 2015, I think that's when he will try to set up the team in the way that he wants to set it up. And that would be a possibility of him then coming back to coach, maybe taking a year off, seeing what, the landscape is, so to speak.
Necessarily who his guys are. I mean, Steve Kerr's the only guy I've heard mentioned, but Steve Kerr, I mean, I don't know that he's a head coach either. I don't know that he wants to leave his cushy TV job as well. But he's a front office guy. And if Phil is the president, that doesn't mean he's the general manager. So he would need a general manager. So, well, you already mentioned Steve Mills. So I'm not sure. The whole thing is pretty complicated. It seems like a desperate attempt right now. One thing is for certain, since the news broke, the Knicks have won 5 straight,
Absolutely.
which is ironic, I'd say. And we're talking about their record, 26-40. They're only 1 win in the win column behind the Hawks, who had an 8-game losing streak followed by a 6-game losing streak. Basically, they've lost 14 out of their last 16 to free fall. But the Knicks are still 5 behind them in the loss column, as the Hawks have played 4 less games than the Knicks. So the Hawks have those games in hand. The way the Hawks are playing right now, I don't necessarily know that that is a good thing because they're losing all those games. But if they can win some of those games, the fewer games that they've played, they can keep their distance from the Knicks as they try to catch them. The Pistons also right there at 25-39, but the Pistons aren't really playing very well either. So, I think it's the Knicks' 8th seed to grab. Let's take a look real quick at the schedule for the Knicks. They got 16 games left. They got the Bucks, who they can win that game easily, but then they got the Pacers, who did have a little 3-game losing streak they just ended. if the Knicks can win against the Bucks, that would be 6 games. And then if they could back that up with a win against the Pacers, all of a sudden you're looking at a 7-game winning streak, and you got the Sixers and Cavs beyond that. You could be looking at 8-9 wins, or at least 8-9 wins out of 10, to really keep the pressure on the Hawks. You also then head out west, but you play the Fakers. LA, the Fake Show, not real good this year. So the Lakers and the Kings to start that West Coast trip. So, you've got, a situation where you could be winning 10 out of 12 games here before you face then the Suns, who are going to be desperate for a win, as they have now fallen to the 9th seed with Memphis catching them out west. The Warriors, who are a playoff team. The Jazz, who have had some decent wins. They're not a playoff team, obviously, but I think that's a tough place to finish the road trip. And then you come back home for Nets, Wizards, and that could be make or break time for the Knicks. And then you go back on the road for Miami and Toronto, the Atlantic Division leading Toronto, who won again last night. Then you're back home, Chicago, at Nets, home, Toronto to finish it. So there is work to be done. The last 7 games or so of the season for the Knicks will be tougher than these next 5 or so with that one Pacers game in the mix. I mean, how do you feel about the Knicks right now? 26-40, the fact that they are actually in playoff contention. I mean, are you galvanized by that? We'll get Mike's opinion on that first. Mike, are you feeling good about that, or you still feel like this season has been a mitigated disaster?
I think it's just like you said, Scott. I think they have to be able to take care of, if they can beat the Bucks and if they can beat the Pacers, get a little run going into April, and then, like you said, that's when the tougher part of their schedule will go into effect. If they can kind of get those games done, maybe be 1 or 2 games behind Atlanta, entering April, get some confidence going, then they may have a chance maybe to make a run at that 8th spot.
Bob, how do you feel? I mean, with the way this Knicks season has gone, it's been pretty much a disgrace. Now suddenly they find themselves even at 14 games below 500 in the pathetic East. Oh, we lost Bob. All right, Bob is no longer with us. We'll continue with Mike. All right, let's talk about some of the other teams in the division here, Mike. Charlotte, the team that I'm now a big fan of, with King Kemba leading the way. They did trade the other Husky player, however, Jeff Adrian, to the Bucks, who, by the way, had a season career-high 20-point game the other night. So that was nice.
Bob is back on the phone.
Bob's back on? All right, somehow we lost you there, Bob, but you're back with us. We're talking about some of the other teams right now, Bob. Charlotte with King Kemba.
My cell phone died.
Cell phone troubles. We know that. Yeah. Charlotte is the 7th seed right now, ahead of the Hawks at 30-34, playing very well with Kemba Walker and Big Al Jefferson, the former Celtic, getting it done. And how about the Brooklyn Nets moving all the way? They are now 3 games clear of 500 with their win last night. They're 3-0 against the Heat this year, and they're doing this right now. KG, the big ticket, has sat out 5-6 games in a row. So they're 33-30 at the 6th seed, and they play those Heat very well. Les Wiz also 33-30. As they lost last night to Charlotte. Nice win for Charlotte against them last night. The Bulls, of course, the team that makes all these other teams who have injuries have no excuse with what they get done week in, week out, game in, game out. They are in 4th seed. Toronto, 35-27, doing work. The Pacers desperately holding off the Heat right now for that 1 seed, which is a big deal because, you could be getting a red-hot Knickerbocker team coming in that 8th seed, or a Charlotte team who's a nice story, but they have no experience in the 7th seed if you're Pacers Heat 1 and 2. So there's a lot to be determined here with 16, 17 games to go, depending on who you are. And as we mentioned, the Hawks with the free-falling situation, losing 14 out of 16. They barely beat the Jazz by 2 points in that last game of their West Coast trip before coming home. So a lot to be determined. Bob, I mean, are you excited about what the Knicks are doing with this little mini win? Or you look at the record, 26-40, and say this is a disaster of a season? I don't care if they sneak in the playoffs.
No, I don't really. I would like to see it happen, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's still an outside chance. The 5 games in the loss column is a lot to make up. It's only 16 to go. But if the Hawks continue to free fall and the Knicks continue to play hot, they could catch them. So it is going to be interesting to see what happens. So that is pretty much the NBA story on the Eastern side. Western side, we mentioned Memphis has not only caught the Suns, who have been a great feel-good story of the year, but they also caught the Mavs. Memphis now is the 7th seed, moving ahead of both those teams, and the Suns are the team on the outside looking in, trying to catch now the Mavs, who are the 8th seed at 38-27. And the Spurs, get this, San Antonio now has the best record in all of the NBA, 47-16. They rest players. They don't care. Tony Parker's got a bad ankle one week. He sits out. You know, Duncan just likes to take a rest here and there. He sits out. They don't care. They play when they want to play. Look at them, 47-16. Remember the Alamo. San Antonio, the best record in all of the NBA, passing Oklahoma City, who I was very pleased to see, who signed Caron Butler after he was bought out from the Bucks. So that was a big deal. I think the only thing bad about this is that his former UConn Husky, Jeremy Lamb, who was having a great season with OKC, is now losing minutes to the Butler. The Butler did it, Jeremy. He's taking your minutes. So I got 2 teams now to root for, with King Kemba, former Husky, leading the way for Charlotte in the playoff picture, and Butler and Lamb, and also Hasheem Thabeet getting some minutes as well for Oklahoma City. So we'll see how those guys play out. I did want to make mention, the LA Fakers, Bob. I don't know if you caught this. Did you see the beatdown? Worst loss in franchise history. The clip joint spanked them in a big way, 142-94 the other night. Bob, did you see that?
I saw that. That's a wreck.
That was wonderful. This was surprising. They took that beat down, and then they go ahead and beat Oklahoma City on national television on Sunday afternoon. What was up with that? As they recover from 2 beatdowns. I think the Rockets also smashed them the other night. So out west, it's Oklahoma City in the 2 spot behind San Antonio. Portland holding on. They're the 5th seed. The Warriors in 6. Houston quietly 4th seed, 44-20, getting some things done. They're a team nobody's really talking about, but I like what they're doing. The Clippers in the 3rd spot. Doc Rivers coaching up his guys, 45-20. And Memphis, we mentioned, moved all the way to the 7th. The Mavs at 38-27. Phoenix 36-27. So like a game out of that final playoff spot. So the West has a lot going on. So there's a lot to be determined in the NBA still to go. We got about a little over 10 minutes left. Let's talk about some college hoops.
So what's some of your picks for
the big dance?
For the big game.
Well, we got to get through these final conference tournaments. I do want to give a hats off to Shabazz Napier, AAC Player of the Year. He got to celebrate a nice senior night the other night, and they did beat Cincinnati in that one of the last home games, but they did regular season. Last game of the year down in Louisville, one of the worst losses I can remember in the history of UConn history, 81-48. What happened on that Sunday afternoon down in Louisville the other day? I got to say, I think Louisville is going to be a number 1 seed. I think what they're doing right now, we saw Villanova get shocked today by Seton Hall in the Big East tournament. That was a little bit stunning. Villanova, people are talking about as a possible 1 seed, as they were number 3 coming into this week, 28-3 record, 16-2. So this is all you need to know. Let's divert real quick. Big East basketball, Big East tournament. Tomorrow night, it's going to be Seton Hall. It's going to be Providence. It's going to be Xavier. It's going to be Creighton in the Big East semifinal, Bob. Mike, I mean, I'm sure you followed college basketball in your day.
Absolutely.
Big East basketball tournament has always been the tournament to watch. Wall-to-wall action. You think people are going to be excited tomorrow night? Seton Hall, Providence, Xavier, Creighton.
I think they'll be excited, but I don't think it's going to be like it was before.
Not the same as it's been in the past.
You have teams like Georgetown, Syracuse, St. John's, UConn.
Georgetown goes out. Villanova drops the ball, number 1 seed. They're out. So, I mean, hey, my family, I'm a Rhode Island guy. I root for Providence. My dad's a huge Providence fan. So they had to sweat it out today. St. John's almost came back and beat them after they were up 16 and almost blew that lead. So I will root for Providence, but it is not quite the same, the Big East. And as far as the AAC goes, Louisville was winning handily today as I was coming into the studio, so I'm sure they finished off. Tonight, tough draw, I think, for UConn. This tournament is being played in Memphis. They have beaten Memphis twice this year. They get the draw, number 4 versus number 5. Memphis is the 5th seed, so UConn has to beat them a 3rd time. Tough deal for UConn, and they have to do it in Memphis. Primetime tonight, 9 o'clock on ESPNU. You're gonna have to search out on your ticker there, on your channel guide there, to find ESPNU. The championship game Saturday night will be on the mothership, ESPN. But tonight's game is going to be tough. Wichita State, Bob, is number 2 in the country. Florida remains undefeated in SEC play, number 1. Why is UConn getting no love? Weren't they the last team to beat Florida? The number 1 team in all the land?
That's right.
I mean, come on. But Florida is number 1, 29-2. I think Florida is a lock for a number 1 seed. Wichita State, definitely a lock for a number 1 seed. Villanova really just blew it with their loss today. They still possibly, maybe could get it. I think Arizona is out there to take a number 1, but I think Louisville is the team that is going to swoop in, the defending champions. I like Louisville to win this AAC tournament the way they're playing right now. What I saw on Sunday against UConn, I think they will be the 4th number 1 with Arizona. If they win at least 1, maybe 2 games out of the Pac-10 tournament, they don't have to win the whole thing, I think. They're 28-3, so I think they will be a 1 seed right there. But it's a very deep field coming in. I do want to mention real quick, I heard the Wichita State coach being interviewed yesterday, and he was talking about some former Wichita State players. More recently, in my more recent memories, 2 great players and 2 great nicknames. Did you know Antoine the Driver Carr and Xavier the X-Man McDaniel, both Wichita State alumni?
Really?
I did not know that. And they had some old-time former Knicks, names escaping me at the moment, but guys who won NBA championships on the bench for the Knicks in the early 70s, Bob. There was a couple guys, we'll get it for you as the tournament goes on. I'll have those names next time, but they did have a couple guys on the Knicks squad that won the championship in the early 70s were Wichita State players as well. So there is some history with Wichita State. I will say, Bob, you were looking for a pick from me, Bob?
Yeah.
I'm going to go out on a limb right here, right now, and I am going to say Wichita State is going to cut down the nets and win the whole thing. Big dance. They went to the Final Four last year. I say they go back, and I say they win the whole thing. We've been talking about this with recent years, Bob, with what's gone on in college hoops. The one-and-doners, the big programmings being at a disadvantage, having freshman-laden teams led by freshmen, no experience, and they've been getting pegged off by these mid-majors. We saw Butler go back-to-back. Shaka Smart has led VCU to the Final Four, deep into tournaments. We've seen other teams, George Mason, they were one of the first teams to do it, knocked off UConn to get to the Final Four. What is the thing that these teams have in common, Bob?
Well, I was thinking about Florida State.
Bob's not going to answer my question. Stay with me, Bob. Maybe Mike can answer that question. Bob, you're losing your job. I'm telling you, Mike. What is the one?
I'm sorry.
What is the one thing that these mid majors have in common?
What the hell?
They have a team in which you have most of the players have been there 3 to 4 years.
Right.
And that makes a huge difference. Like if you look at Wichita State last year, Wichita State made the run to the Final Four. 4 of the starters, I believe, are back this year, and you see what they did this year.
Yeah, and they play 9 players. They got a deep bench, and they are senior-laden guys that have been playing together for 3-4 years. They know the system. They trust each other. When games get tight down the stretch, they know where each guy is going to be on the court, what everybody's responsibility is. I think this could be the year. Because let's look at the top 5 in college basketball right now. Florida, Wichita State, Villanova, Arizona, Virginia. That is the top 5. That is the AP top 5 right now. So is that a powerhouse top 5 coming into the tournament? I don't think it is. You got Duke sitting there at number 7. You got Michigan at number 8. Michigan is coming on strong. There'd be a team I would watch out for. Number 9, San Diego State at 27-3. Steve Fisher is an experienced coach, so I would keep my eye on him and San Diego State. Kansas, they've got some issues with some injuries right now, number 10. Syracuse has been falling apart. You know, so it's not a year where there's a powerhouse number 1, number 2 team fighting it out. Florida, I don't trust them necessarily. But I think the SEC has been a totally down league this year. So I am going to be picking Wichita State when my bracket gets handed to me next week to be filled out. We don't have much time left. Let's do a quick, we're going to skip NHL, go right to the NFL. Bob, what do you think about these signings going down? Revis Island's resurfacing in New England as a Patriot, Bob. I don't know what to think about this. This has been my fear as a Boston sports-based fan, and it has really never happened. I have never had to root for somebody I hated. And yes, I hate all New York teams, and I hate Revis. So now he comes to New England. How am I going to respond to this? What am I going to do?
I don't know. What are you going to do?
I'm not going to go buy a Revis jersey, I can tell you that much. I'm probably just going to sit back and be quiet. And as the season goes on, I will get the Jet fans I know on the phone and start needling them quietly. It'll be a slow needling process.
Scott, I think your feelings will change, if you're in the Super Bowl.
What do you think about Vic possibly going to the Jets?
Jets are looking at Vic. I don't think that's going to happen myself. I mean, they have a young quarterback who is a Vic. Why would they bring in a Vic? I mean, they got a young guy who is Vic, yet he's younger. I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think their general manager is building a team that way. So I don't think so. They did bring in Decker. We got Giant fans here. What do you think about Justin Tuck signing with the Raiders today? We only got a couple seconds, Bob. Bob, what do you think about?
Yeah, that's a little disturbing.
Big loss for them. I will be excited if the Patriots go out and get the recently cut Steve Smith from Carolina. That will be the move I want the Patriots to do. We were running out of time here. Mike, it was nice having you on. Sorry we didn't let you talk too much. Bob just couldn't let that happen. He had to call in.
No problem, Scott.
But we're happy to have you here. We'll get you in more. We'll do this a little bit more.
Well, I'll be back next week.
All right. There was a scheduling snafu, Bob. I'll be the first to tell you right now. We will not be here next week.
Oh, okay.
So you have the week off. We're looking to be back in 2 weeks. So I think that's all the time we got. Bob, again, condolences to Jolene and her family. We wish them the best.
Again, Mike?
We were happy to have her and her kids down here in the studio a couple weeks ago. We know it's a tough time, but we will talk to you soon, and we will talk to all the viewers soon. Enjoy the conference tournaments and the big dance getting underway next week, and happy St. Patrick's Day.
Work hard,